Hi, I'm Reverend Dr. Stephanie Redfeather, and I wanted to share a perspective with you on the world circumstances with the COVID-19 virus. I have studied shamanic practices, shamanic traditions, shamanic consciousness for a number of years. My master's and doctorate are in shamanic studies. I study and practice in the Pachacuti Mesa tradition of Peru, which was created by Don Oscar Miro Quesada, who is still alive. And even before I worked with these things consciously, I can look back on my life and identify that I really lived a very shamanic life, a shamanic lifestyle. And so I want to bring a shamanic perspective to the global pandemic and what is happening to us on multiple levels. And that is a shamanic death. Now, you may or may not be familiar with this term. You might have heard of psychic death. If you're new to this phrasing or this concept, just think of it as a symbolic death. At every level of existence, personal, in our families, our communities, our states, our countries, the entire globe, at every single level, every way that humans can come together and be in an organized group, formal, informal, every possible purpose or focus or reason that we come together, all of those structures are dying. They are crumbling. They are going through a shamanic death process. Microcosm to the macrocosm, we are all experiencing some form of death right now. And there are many, many who are choosing to make their actual death transition from this plane. And I wanted to share this perspective because I hope that it would give you some context and some understanding of the bigger picture and of what you might be feeling personally, what you might be noticing in your family, what we're definitely noticing at national level and global level. A death process means that literally something is dying, but it doesn't necessarily mean a person is dying, an animal is dying. We're talking about death of belief systems, death of values, death of old systems and structures, death of behaviors, death of the way things used to be. Those are felt in our psyche and in our body just as acutely as if someone we love died. There is still a process of denial, anger, grief, railing against it, wishing it wasn't happening, fighting, resisting. But what I have learned from many, many years of working consciously and then looking back on my life at all the times that I unconsciously or unknowingly went through death cycles, I invite you to surrender to these death cycles to the best of your ability. And let me explain what that means, because I get triggered by the word surrender. So I know some of you are like, surrender what? No, not surrendering, no. Surrender doesn't mean you're giving up. It doesn't mean you've lost. It doesn't mean somebody else has won. It doesn't mean that you're defeated. Surrendering simply means letting go of the struggle, letting go of the resistance, letting go of fighting what is inevitable. And this is hard because, especially in our Western world, we're very trained to fight, to be active, to force, to make something happen, you know, by God and the fist pounding and all of that. It is a lesser known and lesser practiced concept to recognize when a death cycle is at our door and for us to go, I surrender into this. I allow myself to experience this process. If you've ever picked up a child that doesn't want to be picked up, you know how hard it is to pick up that child. They make their body rigid, they bend themselves in funny ways, they resist. It's almost like dragging dead weight across the floor with their heels going, ee! compare that now to a child who wants to be picked up. The weight is lighter, they're working with you, you can hold them, they're in sync with you. That's just an example of what it can be like to resist a shamanic death process or to work with it. When you're resisting, you're becoming rigid, you're fighting it, you're putting all of your energy against it. And the thing is, it's already in motion, and it's not something that you're going to be able to stop. And so you have a conscious choice before you of whether you want to actively walk with this process, or if you want to fight kicking and screaming. And I can almost guarantee you, if you fight kicking and screaming, it's going to prolong it. It's going to make it more painful. It's going to make it more protracted. Believe me, I've been there. Okay, I've done it. For any of you who play with astrology, I have 4 planets in Scorpio. I have plenty of will. And I spent the early part of my years forcing, by God, I'm going to make this happen. I want it to happen now. I don't want to hear anything about it. It's not the right timing, or that this isn't the right thing to do. I want it, boom, going to make it happen. And boy, have I had some incredible initiations into learning how to surrender. And I'm doing this because I also want to model for you that surrendering also asks for a change in your state of being, shifting your energy, settling. So instead of gearing up all your energy for a fight and organizing and making it very contracted and very pointed and focused, it's softening, it's relaxing, it's dropping your internal tempo, lowering your energetic center of gravity, slowing down your biorhythms, and just being with what is. Let me also say that as human beings, we go through multiple, dozens, probably hundreds of shamanic death, psychic death, symbolic death processes in our lives. Very few of them we know the end point. So for example, when we complete an educational process, complete with high school or complete with college, those are examples of something where we know an end is coming. For the most part, we don't get to know the end is coming. The end of a relationship, whether we leave a job because we're fired, laid off, we willingly leave, or retire, it's still a death process. It's the ending of one thing, a transition point before the beginning of the next thing. We can die too, as I said earlier, ways of being, beliefs, structures, how we live our life, how we conduct relationship. So we are globally experiencing massive deconstruction. And as we all look at and reassess our values and what's important to us and our behaviors and our actions, we are going to be experiencing these death cycles. And so in the next video, I will talk to you a little more about tools that you can use, processes that you can apply to help yourself move through and embrace this death process with more grace. If you're interested in finding out more about me and my work, you can go to bluestartemple.org.